You've heard about OpenAI, GPT, Tally, Codex, but how do you actually use them in your own applications? That's where Azure OpenAI comes in. Today, we are going hands on, no fluff, just setup and walkthrough so you can get started right away. By the end of this video, you'll have an Azure OpenAI resource up and running inside your Azure portal. Let's get started. Before we dive in, a quick 30-second breakdown. OpenAI, the company, gives us powerful AI models like GPT, but Azure OpenAI lets us use these models with Microsoft Cloud infrastructure. This means better security, scalability, and compliance. So businesses and developers can safely integrate AI into their applications. Now, if you don't have an Azure account, don't worry. I've got a step by step guide on setting up an free Azure subscription or trial, and the link is in the description and right here on the screen. Once you have your account ready, you're ready to follow along. All right, enough talk, let's set it up. So, once we are on Azure portal, we have resource groups. I have already created the resource group Azure OpenAI, but you want to create one for yourself, you can do that from the top left create button. And this resource group is in South India location and it has no resources as of now. So let's go ahead and create resource. In the marketplace, I'm going to search Azure OpenAI and select the one that is offered by Microsoft. This is the one that we want to create. I'm going to go ahead and create. It selects by default resource group as Azure OpenAI. And in the region, I want to set it as closest to me, that will be South India. And as the name of the instance, we are going to call it Azure OpenAI hyphen Aditosh02. It should be unique. And for pricing tier, we are going to stick with standard as 0. That is the only option. Next, network works public. I'm going to review and create, and it will take some time. Well, as per my understanding, to use Azure OpenAI, your subscription needs access. Some accounts have it by default, like my, but if you see access denied, you need to submit a request. And let me know in the comments if you're facing that, and I'll be happy to share the steps. It's no big deal. We just have to submit a form, and that works. But I'm not sure if that's happening because it's not happening for me. Let me know, and I'll be happy to help. And perfect, our resource is created. So I'm going to go ahead and close the notification and click on go to resource. Now we are in Azure OpenAI resource, and inside it we have Azure OpenAI hyphen Aditosh02. And if I click on Azure AI Foundry, it takes me to ai.azure.com. So in future, we can directly go to ai.azure.com and just sign in like so, and we have to just sign in there. I'm not gonna do that since we already have it open. Now let's focus first of all on the top right. We have our scope selected as the Azure model, that resource, Azure OpenAI resource that we created by the name AZ OpenAI hyphen Aditosh02, which is standard S0 pricing tier model or pricing tier resource. Now, first off, on this web platform, I want to direct the attention on the left nav where we have essentially 3 buckets: playgrounds, tools, and shared resources. Now, specifically in the shared resources, we have deployments, which we will be interested in as the first step on this platform. So here we are supposed to deploy our AI models. So right now there are no deployments to display, and we can deploy our models by clicking on the deploy model with the plus sign. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, a base model. And here we have the list of all the models that are offered by Azure OpenAI. We are going to stick with GPT-4o for this tutorial, but feel free to explore. You'll find DALL-E that are used for image generation and a variety of models. So I'm going to name my deployment model as my GPT-4o hyphen model. And deployment types, we have a couple of options, and for now, let's just stick with global standard. So I'm going to go ahead and click on create resource and deploy. Now we have on screen 8K as the token per minute rate limit for our resource that we are deploying. So a token is a chunk of text. This could be a word, part of a word, or even a punctuation. So like OpenAI is amazing is made up of 4 tokens. Open AI is amazing. These are the 4 tokens. So that is how we count token. Azure OpenAI has a token quota, meaning you can only send and receive a set number of tokens per minute before hitting a temporary limit, which is for us 8K. Higher pricing tiers will allow us higher or increase in quota and essentially allowing more token per minute. So that is what we are setting here. So the higher we set the token limit, it's directly going to impact the billing on our subscription. And once we have the model ready, we have the instructions on how to integrate it with Python using Azure AI Interface SDK and using authentication type as Entra ID authentication. This is the documentation and it guides us essentially through how the code will look like in Python using Azure AI Interface SDK. It's pretty cool. I like the support that this platform is giving us. Uh, all the information. We can change the language to C sharp and then have the documentation on how to integrate it. But I'm going to skip that part for now. And now that our model is ready, we can actually hit the playground chats and actually play around. First things first, the deployment is set as the model that we just created, and in the dropdown we only have one option because we just created one deployment model. But if we have multiple models created on our deployments under shared resources, we can select the model with which we want to test out in our playground. And then here we can set the context, as in for every conversation chat, this will by default be followed by our model. So essentially the place where you want to do prompt engineering. So here it says you are AI assistant that helps people find information, and on top of it I'll add and you always respond in Hindi. Now it makes sure, let's make sure that we apply changes. So apply changes and continue. Let's see how our prompt or sample prompt is performing. Hello, can you greet all the viewers watching this video and learning Azure OpenAI? And in response, I am seeing the greetings in Hindi. Now, this happened only because it picked it from the context that we have set, and we never explicitly asked it to say speak in Hindi while our conversation. And if I ask it to be more poetic, I'm seeing a Hindi poem as a response. That's pretty good. Now, as a quick change, if I remove you always respond in Hindi and apply the changes, I'll see that new session has started. Okay. And if I just copy and paste it down here, I'll see a response in English. So that's there. Also, apart from this, we have add your data tab where you can actually add your data, as in these are the options. You can use Azure AI Search, blob storage. A lot of them are in preview, but they are there. And then the AI model will only be trained on them and will respond only in terms of that. So either you train it on it or make that database as a context is a different thing. So let me know in the comments what you think, whether the AI model will be trained on the data that you are adding here, or will the AI model just respond in context of the data that you are adding but not actually being trained on it. And lastly, in the parameters, we have the well-known parameters that LLM models possess, and we can custom set them as per our needs for this model. So we also have images where we can essentially use tally models to interact with models that generate images. And then we have completions where we can essentially create a model and generate one of text from a prompt, which essentially is used to generate complex word outcomes. And that's how you set up Azure OpenAI in just a few minutes. Now you have access to GPT models inside Azure. Coming up next, we'll integrate this with a .NET application and make real API calls. If you don't want to miss it, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Also drop any questions below, I'd love to help. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.